Hello everyone, and welcome today to our panel where we are discussing ecosystems. I'm Daniel Salter, Head of Research at Renaissance Capital, and I'm joined as host by Kirill Panarin, who heads up our tech research and is armed with all the tough questions to ask. Now, we've seen the transformational effects of ecosystems and super apps right across Asia, including Tencent, Paytm, and Gojek, and we're now seeing Russia develop its own successful ecosystems. We had a meeting this week with one Kremlin official who said that the way ecosystems develop in Russia is going to be absolutely critical to the economy, both on the growth front and how do you regulate and encourage that growth going forwards. So today we've got 5 amazing speakers. We've got Oliver Hughes, the CEO of Tinkoff Group. We've got Anna Artamonova, the Vice President of Ecosystem Products at Mail Group. We've got Vyacheslav Nikolaev, President and CEO of MTS. We've got Dmitry, the CEO of AliExpress in Russia. And we've got Abdulla Marzooqi, the Deputy Head of Russia and CIS at Mubadala. Thank you all very much indeed for your time joining us today. Now, I'd like to start off by looking a bit more broadly at how you see ecosystems working. And my first question is to Oliver at Tinkoff, and then the same question to Anna at Mail. These days, we hear a lot about ecosystem strategies from many companies. What does it mean for you? What do you think are the critical components or services that you need to have in order to be considered an ecosystem, and more importantly, to be a successful one? Oliver.
Yeah, could I start?
You could do. It was meant to be Oliver, but Anna, please go ahead.
Yeah, great. I could say that there is no obvious services that you have you have to have in a list of services in ecosystem. Basically, you can say that there are many different ecosystems in the world, and generally I could divide it into parts. For example, like general ecosystems, like we do, or maybe Yandex trying to do, or Sberbank trying to do, where we try to cover like a lot of people needs, and more niche specific ecosystems, which I believe maybe Tinkoff try to do, or another bank try to do, make financial services for the people. And but the main that doesn't matter what exactly includes in your ecosystem and what niche you try to take, but the important stuff is that ecosystem is not a list of services. It's not just you have service A, B, C, and it belongs to your company, and that means that you already have an ecosystem. Ecosystem means that you have synergy between these services. And from customer perspective, I have big presentation about this, and I divide it in 6 layers for my colleagues. But in a brief, from customer perspective, when I already use the service 1 from your company, I feel like I have more value if I will use the second service. That value could be for example, time saving or money saving, or better even new user experience. But as a customer, I obviously should receive new value from this, from using the second service of your company. And from the company perspective, so we need to create this value. We need to create user experience. We need to interconnect our services such way. So when you engage in one of, for example, in VK social network, you have much easier and more valuable path to use the second service, for example, VK Taxi or VK Music or something like this. And obviously, company also want to benefit from this situation, and we do, because when customers feel value, we receive like value for the company is always we have in two ways. We could lower customer acquisition cost in each next service, and we could uplift our lifetime value from the customer, either through the retention, through the better retention, or through the higher ARPU from the user. So anyway, so this situation is win-win situation for both of us. Customers receive better service for the same money or less time or great user experience. We receive like more loyal customers. That's it in a brief.
Thanks, Anna. And Oliver, do you have a similar strategy at Tinkoff? How does it differ?
Sure. So Anna put it quite nicely in terms of the benefits to the user. So what are the reasons for a user to use more services in a particular place? So let's call it an ecosystem. Anna's right that we don't have plans to become in Tinkoff a huge general purpose ecosystem covering all the verticals. So we have a slightly different strategy. Our core is obviously financial services for consumer, financial services for small and medium business. But around that, we have a few verticals that we've chosen to go into. So we have verticals that we've built out ourselves and gone into organically. This is travel, this is mobile services, this is content, relevant content to our business. We've done a few M&A moves recently, so we've gone into entertainment, ticketing basically, and we've also recently gone into loyalty in a much bigger way. And then for everything else, we partner. So we have 15 million customers currently in our ecosystem. That's growing very rapidly. We're number 3 by active customers in the financial services in Russia, and we need to provide relevant services to them. So as Anna quite rightly said, it's not about the sheer number of services that you have, although relevant services to your customer base is very important. But it's the experience that you give them and the reasons for them to be in your ecosystem, consuming more and more services and products. So we see this around interface with great UX. We see it as built around a frictionless service, switching between services, single sign-on, so that you have access to all of this without messing around with tons of different complex passwords and different experience each time in terms of authentication. The way the data is collected, managed, and used to drive relevancy to you, and obviously engagement. So for the ecosystem itself, it's about engagement, but I suspect that's something we'll be talking a lot about as we go through the panel.
Great, thank you, Oliver. I'm very interested, as we go across industries, to hear from Vyacheslav at MTS. I mean, firstly, what is your view as to what it takes to create a successful ecosystem? But more specifically, I think one of the features that we're seeing in Russia is that connectivity is increasingly becoming a central pillar for many players. So Sberbank and Tinkoff offer their own branded mobile connectivity. And of course, MTS is building an ecosystem on top of a telecom base. Vyacheslav, from your perspective within the industry, what makes connectivity so critical for ecosystem players? And do you expect this trend to continue?
Okay, hello. I think that, first of all, you're absolutely right. A lot of companies that are building ecosystems, they're trying to move towards some kind of providing connectivity. There are quite a few reasons for that. The main reason for that, in my view, is that telecom is something that people are used to paying on a monthly basis, and this is something that is really necessary, in comparison with even social networks, where there are a lot of much more contacts that people have with social network. But you can talk about search engines, you can talk about even banking. You have to have regular financial relationships with your client. In this case, you will be able to bundle it with additional service rather, neatly. Your funnel is becoming much easier than in case you need to search for his credit card to be entered into your form. So this is, I think this is the main reason, and this is we see this, of course, as our competitive advantage, because we can work the quality issue from end to end, and a lot of other services are being provided through connectivity. So we can use it also for big data. And big data is also I've realized, of course, that there are quite a lot of, I would say, complete sets of data that would allow you to provide your customer with a relevant advice on the next service that your customer is going to need. But then again, the key here, in my view, is the ability to provide it with financial, financial shoulder for him to purchase this right away. I think that's the main reason for everyone to go for connectivity.
Okay, thank you, Vyacheslav. If we move on to AliExpress, Dmitry, do you think ecosystem creation or being part of an ecosystem is now becoming a must-have for any tech or digital service these days? I think, so far most of the leading e-commerce companies in Russia are still more focused on their core offering, and they're yet really to be fully focused on ecosystems. Do you see that changing? Do you think ecosystem strategy becomes a must-have for online retailers, e-commerce companies? Can they be successful without offering such a service to customers?
Yeah, hello everyone. First of all, I would say that marketplaces are building ecosystems in itself, right? Because the idea of the marketplace is to connect supply and demand. In other words, connect merchants or sellers to the customers. And I think that we recently saw a lot of moves from some of our competitors into financial services, into other verticals. And I would say that the trend of building ecosystems around major e-commerce platforms, I think, well, A, it's global, and B, we see more and more of these things happening here. In our case, we, on one hand, build our own platform, as I said, by connecting sellers and buyers. On another hand, we also participate in a wider mail ecosystem where we build, as Anna mentioned, we build unique use cases with an idea of, on one hand, decreasing customer acquisition cost, on another hand, increasing retention, because we can create a lot of unique use cases, social-only use cases, not only for the buyers, but also for the sellers, because a lot of these sellers are already on the social platforms, and by interconnecting them with their customers and providing purely transactional platform to do logistics, to do payments, to serve these transactions, we can really create new value. And at the end of the day, I completely agree with what everybody says. It's about value creation for the customer, be it the seller in our case or the buyer. We see that social can be a powerful tool to give this new value. On another hand, of course, the whole big topic of loyalty programs, where I can, in various places, collect or redeem different points that are interconnected through one loyalty program. And a lot of these things we do together with mail, being the part of the wider mail ecosystem.
Okay, so it sounds as though getting the interconnectivity right is absolutely key here. Moving on to Abdulla, could you talk a bit about your exposure at Mubadala to the tech sector? Are there particular segments in tech that you find most promising at the moment? And when you consider investing into tech companies, how important is their ecosystem strategy to you?
Thank you, Daniel, for the introduction. Thank you for inviting me here today. And first, I'd like to say it's a pleasure to be joining my esteemed colleagues on the panel today. So, of course, I'll talk about Mubadala from an investor's perspective. And let's start with the journey Mubadala had with technology. It started back in 2007, when we first had significant investments into semiconductors through our investments into AMD and Global Foundries. So almost 15 years ago. Fast forward to 2017, that's when we established our ventures and growth team, a team that spans across the globe from the US to Europe to the MENA region, looking at early stage startups. And one of the value adds that Mubadala brings as an investor, I like to think, or I've heard this term, smart investors, or smart money, because we don't just bring capital to the table, but we are connected to a wide range of smart investors across the globe, be it Silver Lake or SoftBank, where we have very strong relationships and partnerships. So let's move on to Abu Dhabi specifically, and I'd like to echo what Anas said about ecosystems and the definition of ecosystems. I think ecosystems are not necessarily only online, but we'd like to think of Hub 71, an incubator that we helped in developing in Abu Dhabi, as an ecosystem which provides the startups and the founders and the entrepreneurs with access to both capital, world-class customers, mentorship programs, and market opportunities. Now, fast forward to 2014, that's when the Russia investment program, a $6 billion commitment to be invested in the Russian economy. That's when it was established. And we are long-term investors. That's another unique aspect of our investment program. And in 2018, quickly through our partnerships, through our investments and understanding of the Russian economy, we understood that tech needs to be a major part of our investment program, and our allocation continues to increase over time. And just to highlight some of the investments that we've made over the years, so we've had 6 investments to date in logistics, video on demand, artificial intelligence, edtech, e-commerce, and so on. Most notably, and maybe most recently, our investment in Telegram. And then let's tie it back to your question, Dan, about ecosystems. AliExpress Russia, Dmitry is here with us today. We are proud investors in AliExpress Russia, because this is an ecosystem that's being provided not only, and it's a cross-border, the #1 player in the Russian market. So it's a great example of partnership, and this is one of our key values, where you have Alibaba, RDIF, Megaphone, and Mail all coming together to create this the AliExpress Russia. And I'd like to echo. So in terms of the themes that you, or the, I don't like to think of tech as an independent sector. I like to think of it as themes, because today tech cuts across all sectors and industries. So the themes that we like to focus on are mobility, marketplaces, and consumer technology. And when it comes to enterprise spaces, health tech and ed tech, those are major examples that we look at. So not only locally, but internationally as well. So Mubadala invested recently $1.2 billion into Jio, so an Indian mega tech company. And this demonstrates our excitement about opportunities, especially when it comes to the ecosystems, not just locally within Russia, but internationally. And we continue to be excited about the sector.
That's great. Thanks, Abdulla. Dan, let me take over from here to touch on some specifics of the ecosystem strategies. And first of all, a question to Oliver and Vyacheslav on the super app phenomenon. So we know that super apps are very popular in many Asian markets and not very much so in the West. In Russia, it looks like there are different strategies at different companies at this stage. For example, Tinkoff has one app where users can do many things, from paying utility bills and P2P transfers to investments and restaurant bookings. And for example, MTS also has various services, but it has multiple different apps for them. So could each of you share your perspective and thoughts around the pros and cons of a super app strategy versus a multi-app strategy? Oliver, maybe you could start.
Sure. Thanks for the question, Kirill. So we have quite a pragmatic approach, actually. It's not quite as simple as a super app versus multiple apps. So if you look at what we do in our core, let's say, financial lifestyle app, which is our yellow app, which has 10, 11 million MAU and growing very quickly. We have a super app component within that. So we call it our super app because that's where we have basically aggregated services. There's the verticals I mentioned earlier, travel, mobile services, obviously all of the financial services, investing, saving, borrowing, small business, whatever it might be. But also we have what we call the lifestyle component, which is partnering with a wide range of partners to provide services in fuel, local transport, e-com, cinema tickets, whatever it might be. So basically you can order flowers in the app, you can do all this stuff. That's on the one hand. But on the other hand, we also have several different apps. And I'll explain why in a second. So we have this core yellow app, the financial service and lifestyle app. We have an investments app. We have a small business app. We have a mobile app. We have Kirill, which is a loyalty aggregator in partnership with merchants. And the reason why we have that is because there's all sorts of problems with dumping everything into one super app. So you have navigability problems. You have clutter, basically. So if you look at the Chinese apps, and this is certainly no denigration of what they've done because it's amazing, but there's a lot of kind of visual clutter, which isn't a very nice UX or even aesthetic experience, which is very important to us. You have issues with development speed and complexity, which affects time to market. So if you break it down into different core apps, then that enables you to speed up and roll out your products and features much more quickly. There's also stability issues if you have everything in one app. Integration means complexity, which leads to bugs and mistakes, which is rather annoying, and obviously stability where it can actually fall over. And very important as a growth organization, we're onboarding millions of customers each quarter. The problem with having everything in one app is that you have problems with performance marketing. So your promotion of that app in ASO, whatever it might be, actually can lead to problems with conversion through the sales funnel if you have it all in one app. So we land people in separate apps for our different core financial services. So we have this pragmatic approach, which is a mixture of both. And I think probably all online companies face similar issues at one stage or other.
Great, thanks, Oliver. Vyacheslav, what's your view here? Do you think we will see the creation of MTS super app in the future, or it will remain a sort of several different services through different apps?
I don't think you should really wait for our super app. And actually, I wanted to say thanks to Oliver because he made my work very easy here. I agree to him. First of all, that super apps are working well in Asia due to various reasons, but there are a lot of cultural reasons too. In Russia, people prefer to have, I would say it's kind of a hybrid approach. They prefer local apps, but they also want to have access to global apps, and at the same time they like to pick and choose. So in this terms, it's really great to have an app for a certain service, but at the same time you need some kind of gateway that has really high MAU. In our case, it's my MTS with MAU of monthly active users of 25 million, over 25 million now, which can distribute traffic to other apps. The other important thing is not only the complexity of development, it's also very important because time to market is critical here for every company, for every digital company. At the same time, some people wouldn't be even able to install a super app because it's heavy. A lot of smartphones are filled with videos and pictures, and sometimes big apps could not be installed. It seems like it's really a big problem for a lot of people. And in addition to that, I would say that when you're going to the market with a lot of apps, you have one thing to make sure that there is a really seamless cross-app integration, so that users can switch up without having to worry about logging in again or having to re-enter their payment information, having very seamless information services in all of those apps. And then if you if you have a link in one of those apps, you know that your customer would like the services. You know that because you have your data, customers, you realize that you have very good targeting. So you know that, okay, your customer entered my MTS and want to propose him a certain financial service. This should be a deep link, which would take him either to installing another app or exactly to the place where with 1 or 2 clicks, we for example, we can issue a credit card with 2 clicks, and this in our experience, this what made this very, very successful service. So all in all, it should be excellent quality across your apps, and it should be very, very easy cross-app navigation. Then you're better than super app, because people, as Oliver mentioned, there is a navigation problem. Because when you're done doing something, you swipe up, you close there, and in case of super app, you close the whole super app, and then you have to take your customer to open it again, which looks kind of not the best way. So no super app, but a lot of apps that are very well connected.
That's clear. Thanks, Vyacheslav. To wrap up on this super app topic, Anna, Mail has historically operated separate apps for different services, but more recently, it also integrated various products into VK, such as food delivery or taxi. Can you talk about user preferences you've seen? What's the usage mix between VK mini apps versus regional apps, and how do you expect that to change over the next several years? Anna, I think you're on mute. Could you unmute yourself, please?
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, I have a lot to say here, because I think I'm quite proud of our progress we made with our mini apps platform. First of all, I want, in customer perspective, and how do they prefer to use, I could say that different people prefer different approach. That is like simple, and that's it. Some people who is more sophisticated, who is more like experienced user, sometimes they prefer separate app if they are heavily engaged in this activity. For example, if you're like extremely often make shopping or food delivery, you prefer separate app. But if you, for example, newcomer who are not sure that you even want to try food delivery or shopping from abroad, or it's your first time to use taxi service, it's more convenient and safe for you to do it through your like close and well-known platform like VK, for example. And we see huge amount of newcomers who we able to engage to our services like taxi, food delivery, etc. And they try it for the first time. And to be honest, a huge amount of people just stay in this situation. They use it from time to time, and the best way in this case just stuck with a super app. And it's pretty big amount of people. We have in taxi, we have several million rides per month through the VK application, and the same great numbers we have in food delivery. And for example, we just a month ago, maybe even less than a month ago, we start scooter renting, and we already have like a double-digit number of rides per day. So it's a really great opportunity. So what I want to say, I believe in, like Vyacheslav told, mixed, or maybe some Oliver, I forgot who was this, mixed approach. You know, what is why China is so stuck to super app? Because China is, a lot of people come to the internet in the last several years, and the only internet they know, it's not browser, it's WeChat. So they even don't know that other option available. So in Russia, we have more experienced users. Some of them are ready to use separate apps, but there are also a huge amount of people who need some convenient and safe environment. And the second thing, that's not only about convenience and safety, it's about extra value creation, as we mentioned in the first question. So when you use, for example, VK Taxi through VK Super App, you, for example, could split your bill with friends. You could order a taxi for your friend. And we trying to make some extra value connections with the main product, not only just put it inside and make access easier, but provide connection with our messenger, with our how to say, timeline, what's the name of the main page of the social network. A lot of connections that makes the product better. For example, you could promote the coupons for taxi in your social network, and then you can save and use it in taxi mini app, and a lot more ideas we have to do. And the third thing I want to mention, that's mini app platform is not only option for our own businesses to come in and use VK audience. It's also open platform for third party. So with the help of third party, we could create much more rich experience for the users. For now, we have like maybe several hundreds applications on our platform with audience more than several thousand people per month, because I don't count the long tail with zero audience. I only count the mini apps who have an audience already. So there are really several hundreds of them already working for our audience. There are different stuff. It could be games, it could be like something fun. It could be, for example, mini apps for developing your community. Yeah, because we have a lot of community people who own their own community, and for example, you could add to your community page timetable for something, for some reason, or checkout for some reason, or some stuff for community. So it's we believe that it's very great opportunity for us to build really rich experience inside our ecosystem. And the two more examples, we also, as you know, we have EULA, it's our classifieds, and we're starting, I don't know why it's so late, but we're starting to integrate EULA in VK, like at the end of the last year. And now it's VK classifieds, the part inside VK. It's, it is huge adoption. We have like 30% more in terms of monthly users on the classifieds. And the same stuff with the former work, now we call it VK work, or VK job. VK работа in Russian. So you could just find the job in 2 clicks. You could apply for, it's like job searching for the common professions, not very complicated. So you could apply to the some job position, like in 2 clicks. You just take all stuff from your profile, add some features, and you apply. And that's a very good example of complementary services for the social network, for example. So I'm very exciting about the perspectives of the super apps, but also believe that it's a room on the market for existing the standalone apps also. And also it could be the specialized super apps. For example, our delivery club, application is also became super app in food delivery, because it starts from the restaurant delivery, as you remember, but now they delivery club, they also deliver groceries from the range of supermarkets, and also they deliver groceries from our own Samokat. They connected there. Also, they deliver the pharmacy from our Vyacheslav project south, and also they have connection with stuff Beethoven. It's stuff for the pets, and now they could deliver you almost everything, you know. So it's in terms of super app, it's delivery super app also already. So
yeah, that's clear. Great, thank you, Anna. Let's maybe switch to another topic we wanted to discuss with you all, and that's the fintech development. So fintech and payments seems to be one of the areas where many ecosystem players overlap or are going to overlap. So firstly, Dmitry, can you talk about AliExpress plans in fintech? I assume it should be part of the strategy of the JV between non-financial mail and others. So what are your ambitions in the space, and why would people switch from their existing financial service providers to new solutions from new players?
Yeah, look, I think that first of all, I would not maybe speak about the JV plans. You all know that it was announced that there are plans to create a separate financial services joint venture between different partners, including, as you mentioned, Ant Finance. But our plans are obviously, on one hand, related to this JV. On another, we are also ready to look at various partnerships. And by the way, without making official statements, Oliver, hope to see you next week. We just today agreed to have a meeting next week. Anyways, I think we directionally shall look at two things. One, which everybody now talks about, is consumer finance and various forms of wallets, closed loop wallets, including all of this loyalty stuff that we already discussed, and collection of points, redeeming of points, and of course, consumer financing through these apps. And this is the reason why I think mostly both Ozon and Wildberries and everybody on the market is moving into this direction. And you know that they recently acquired banking licenses. We may have it through this separate joint venture, which will already include a banking license and the whole setup for doing consumer financing. On another hand, I think that there is a big area which is mostly disregarded now by a lot of speakers on this topic. It's merchant finance and various forms of working with the merchants, because again and again, I'm saying that marketplace, it's not a 1P business. We do not operate our own stock. We connect supply and demand. And the supply side of it and the merchants, a lot of them are small and medium-sized businesses. A lot of these businesses in Russia have problems to finance working capital. They need this working capital to sell more on these marketplaces. And there are many things we can do for them, many services we can offer them. Again, on the consumer side, a lot of things that many e-commerce services are doing internationally. Look at Coupang, look at Mercado Libre, look at most of international peers, of course, are related to wallets, various forms of working with this wallet to also increase retention. We, of course, have different ideas how we connect this with other parts, again, of Mail's ecosystem or some other services that our shareholders provide. And of course, we have in mind some big loyalty program where coins, you name it, points, whatever form of items collected by the customer can be redeemed in other place. And hence, we kind of interconnect different services and also increase retention. And again, on another hand, decrease the customer acquisition cost for various services. So this is something along the lines what we have in mind. But again, on another side, I think we are always working on partnerships, and I do believe that generally this whole e-commerce market in general, in many respects, it's a big country. It's not such a big market financially. I mean that on one hand, to cover this whole big territory, you need a lot of investment. On another hand, there are now a number of very well funded players, including ourselves, who are playing on this market. And I do believe in various forms of partnerships, be it on the financial side, be it on logistics, be it on other parts of the wider offering that we are building.
Great, that's clear. Thank you, Dmitry. Vyacheslav, back to you. So MTS Bank seems to be an important part of your ecosystem strategy. So can you also share some insight on the rationale behind your expansion into this space? And in particular, what are the specific synergies you see with your existing business, and what are your long-term ambitions?
Okay, I think I've mentioned importance of financial services for ecosystems already, and it's really greasing the work that every ecosystem is doing on engaging its customers to new services, especially given that that monthly checks for those services could be very different. So in these terms, providing financial help for customer could be absolutely crucial, especially given the fact that you know your customer very well. And this brings me to the other side of this synergy, which is what ecosystem can do for financial business, and why we think that we have very good opportunity in growing our financial business. I think there are three major synergies of this. First is on data side. MTS, of course, has extensive capabilities in terms of big data analytics. We've already leverage this insight and expertise to help MTS Bank to improve its credit scoring system, and with that we enabled the bank to rapidly grow its loan portfolio with maintaining a very comfortable level of cost of risk. This is a very clear synergy, and is there. And then Q1 our retail loan portfolio grew 35% year over year. So it's a very impressive figure given that it wasn't the best year. On retail side, it's also important because MTS is a nationwide network of more than 5,000 owned and franchise stores, which gives us a solid platform for identity authentication, since both banking and SIM cards, they need pretty much the same process. So this is, again, it's an advantage that allows us to think that it's much easier to grow financial services within our ecosystem. And at the same time, it provides a very good sales channel and convenient site for card delivery, for ATM and terminal installation. So a lot of synergies here too. And finally, on the consumer side, we are, well, you've seen a lot of news lately, whether MTS is an IT company or not an IT company. We have more than 6,000 developers. We are operating our own billing system, and we have extensive experience in building our digital applications. So while Russia is not an underbanked anymore, there is still a lot of legacy of regional banks, other banks that we can really work on that and provide very good digital experience to our customers without growing it very fast. We've been on this. We're not very old bank. We are on this digital journey now 3 years since we consolidated control over MTS Bank in 2018, and I think we have major progress. We are we are the 8th largest Russian bank by credit card portfolio now. We are growing high frequency transactions, which is another important thing for any ecosystem, because again, you have to communicate with the customer a lot. So high frequency transactions is also important for that. And in the first quarter, our fee and commission income account for more than half of total retail operating income. So again, it's a big part for us. And in answer to your question about our goals, we want to be in top 5 of Russia's digital banks. And our main KPIs is 10 billion net income and return over of over 20%. This is, and we're pretty confident we can reach that. That's not OKRs, that's almost KPIs.
Great, thank you, Vyacheslav. Oliver, from your perspective, given the expansion of various well-funded players into fintech, well, two questions, I guess. First, do you feel higher competition in your core market, in your core business? And more generally, are there new trends in fintech in Russia which allow you to continue to innovate? In particular, I'm thinking of buy now, pay later, which is very popular in some other countries, but remains a relatively niche segment in Russia. But probably there are other interesting opportunities you see.
Sure. So here, I feel a bit schizophrenic because we're kind of a disruptor and an incumbent at the same time. So you could call us a disruptive incumbent for want of a better word. So we're continuing to disrupt the market. We're growing very quickly. We're taking customers, bringing new customers into the market, rolling out new, let's say, services which create new markets, but also obviously taking customers from other institutions. So the competition in fintech in the past has come from a few fintech startups that unfortunately withered on the vine, and it was difficult for them. It's difficult to find capital in Russia, and the structure of the market didn't really lend itself in the past to new entrants, although there are a few notable exceptions, and we're one of them. So our competition has been the other incumbents, the traditional financial institutions. But obviously things are just about to change. So we're getting a raft of new players already coming into the market. The mobile operators who've been doing it for a while already. The e-commerce guys and other online players. And so you're going to see some pretty significant changes over the next 3 to 5 years. I don't think this will take place in the next year or two with any serious volumes. But over a 3 to 5 year span, it will certainly make a big showing. So it's going to become interesting. And in conjunction with that, you have the central bank disrupting the market. And this is driving change. So they've done, so one of the most disruptive players on the market today is the central bank, which sounds a bit weird maybe. But the introduction of the faster payment system, SPP, hopefully the introduction of the EBS, which has been a bit slow to kick off, but the biometric, two-factor biometric identification of customers, which allow remote account opening, because today you still have to have a physical meeting to do KYC and account opening, and the open banking initiatives that the central bank is working on at the moment. They will accelerate the change in the financial system. So it's an interesting place to be. And we can continue to grow our market share because we straddle both worlds. The old, more traditional financial world, a balance sheet business with the online interface-driven and let's say network effect accelerated businesses that are now coming into the market. So that's the first question in terms of competition. The second part in terms of innovative financial services and products that have been coming into the market. We recently launched our own BNPL product. We're the first guys to do so, called Dalyami, which is basically a short installment product which you can pay off in 4 installments. So it's basically, it's not a lending product. If you think of the philosophy for the customer, it's a deferred payment product, which fits like a hand in glove with e-commerce, obviously, at the moment. There are particular categories like fashion, clothing, shoes, maybe ticketing, which work very well with this, but it's much broader than that as well. So BNPL is something we're very excited about. We're pushing that very hard at the moment. We're looking forward to our breakfast with Dmitry and his colleagues very much. And there's tons of other stuff. I mean, you look at the SAM opportunities in Russia today. So we're launching, let's say, coming with a fresh approach to private banking. So customized banking for high net worth individuals. So it's banking, investment, concierge, and tons of other services around that lifestyle for high net worth. So the new economy millionaires, we call them, that's a big opportunity that we're working on at the moment. There'll be more information coming your way on that. SME lending, and there's all sorts of stuff around SME in terms of playing e-commerce through SME, taking out the pain points for SME customers as we go beyond core financial services into servicing SME, which we've been doing for a while, but we're really going to be accelerating that. So everywhere you look, there's opportunities, and it's such a huge market. There's room for everybody to grow, even with new entrants coming in and disrupting. But one thing that we particularly like is what we call AI banking, where basically you use the huge data that you have available to you, that your customers are giving you consent to use in a smart way. So you take basically the drudge, the boring, hygiene type of transactions into the background, your monthly transfer to your mum, paying off your utility bill, paying off your school fees, whatever it might be. Take that into the background, automate it, and take it out of people's immediate field of visibility, and bring into the foreground the things that drive endorphins, that give you pleasure. So stuff to do with the kids, travel, entertainment, what you do at the weekend. Interesting tips about how you can optimize your expenses, your budget, your investing, whatever. And all of that is driven by machine learning algorithms working in the background. Some of it based on lookalike algorithms, some of it based on other approaches, which drive this content, these relevant tips and advice to our users in our mobile app. And that's something that we really like at the moment. So it's not a product, but it's just a new philosophy for managing finance.
Sounds extremely exciting. Oliver, while we've got you here, I wanted to follow up with you on regulation. You mentioned the central bank as a disruptive super regulator, and you're probably the most exposed of the panelists to regulation, given your fintech core. Could we spend a couple of minutes on the regulatory aspect of the fintech and ecosystem development in Russia? As ecosystem players get larger and more widely spread, they collect enormous amounts of data, which presumably has a lot of value as you collect it. You could use that in pricing loans competitively, which presumably is a good thing in itself. Or you could use it to cross-subsidize a customer to keep them within your system. But when do you think the ecosystem glue becomes a bit too sticky from a sort of regulatory perspective? Do you see any moves down the line to force companies to share data as they would have done in the past with a credit rating agency? Or do you think the data is so complex that you couldn't analyze it? You'd need proprietary AI skills to analyze it, and the customers themselves may not want it being shared. What's your view on that?
That question's to me, Daniel, yeah?
Yeah, Oliver.
Sure, so it's a multi-layered discussion, yeah. So basically the central bank is trying to achieve several things at once. So they're trying to regulate dominant players to make sure they don't squeeze other players out of very important products and services, and monopolize those services for their own customer base. They're trying to make sure that the existing financial service providers don't blow tons of capital on stuff that isn't going to work. So there's lots to talk about capital management. And the third thing they're trying to do is to begin to establish a regulatory framework to regulate the newcomers into the market. So lots of people on this call who are going to suddenly understand what deep regulation's about. Welcome to our world, guys. And they're also trying to do stuff that is, about protecting the consumer, fostering competition, or further cultivating competition, because the central bank's been pretty good at that, I have to say. And obviously data privacy and protection and all the good stuff around that. So they've got quite a complex task, and they're starting with the banking sector, which is kind of like their natural home. But if you think about where this will probably take us, there's kind of two strands to it. The first strand is open banking, where step by step the central bank will, through the Association of Fintech, they'll start making different institutions, not just banks, but in a reciprocal way, different institutions' data and transactional data maybe eventually, but starting with user data available to each other, basically. So it's not just about banks making their data available to e-commerce players, because that would be a little bit one-sided, yeah. So it's going to be a reciprocal arrangement where everybody's data is going to be, certain levels of data are going to be available to everybody. And then the second part is is ecosystem regulation in order to make sure that all services are available to everybody and they're not monopolized by 2 or 3 players, which is bad for competition. So we'll see how it plays itself out.
Okay, watch this space. Abdulla, when you're screening the market for investments, there's obviously now quite a wide range of high potential ecosystem players out there developing at the same time. What are the key factors you're looking at when you're trying to understand and assess the probability of success of a certain business when it expands into new segments? Do you think a strong brand and large user base is enough to scale and grow new verticals? And when you're investing into tech, is your strategy to try to pick the winner, or do you try to pick several potential winners and take a more portfolio approach, knowing that not all of them will succeed? Abdulla.
Yes. So on the first question on what we look for, founders. Especially when we're looking at startups, this is the most important factor. You need to know that you have a strong management team that is resilient and creative, because there's no straight path to profitability. There's no straight path to success. Just a quick, simple example: Amazon. It started as an online bookstore, and look at it today. It's a conglomerate. Depending on what day of the week you're checking, it could be the #1 company by market cap and globally. So founders. Number 2, and this links to something that Oliver mentioned. So my team is part of a larger platform called Disruptive Investments. And this is key. We need, when we're looking at new businesses, new companies that are in the tech space, we need to know that they're disrupting their respective industries, that they're making a change to the nature of the business and finding a niche. Now, those are the 2 key aspects that we look for. Of course, path to profitability, product market fit, the list goes on. But those first 2 are the ones that I would emphasize the most, especially when you're looking at startups. So the next part of your question, I believe, was about brand recognition and the user base. Now, do they help? Absolutely. Do they guarantee success? Well, it depends, right? And I think I like the, Oliver mentioned a good point about when it comes to fintech, for example. So you have 2, let's talk about Tinkoff and Sber. I think, 2 initially operating in basically the same space, but today you have Tinkoff primarily focusing on its core product, while Sber is branching out, where they actually took out the name bank, and now they think of themselves as and we're proud investors in Sber. Is one better than the other? I don't think so. It depends on what you have to offer. It depends on the specific niche and the market you're operating in. So my advice is always to continue focusing on the quality of your core product, and then leverage your user base to experiment, if you will, to see where you can start expanding your business into. The final question, I wish, Dan, I could say we always know who the winners are, but I don't think anyone has the foresight to do so. So we hedge our bets or our investments into different companies. And I'll give you a specific example. So let's talk about last mile delivery apps. Globally, we are invested in different companies, be it Grab, Getir, Flink, which all offer similar products, but in different geographies. So this is what we do. We try to pick the winners within the certain geographies. And I think there are many instances where the sectors are big enough that there's no one winner takes all. It's big enough for multiple winners, even if it's in the same geographies. And then finally, what I'd like to emphasize is it's important for us as Mubadala, as an investor, to know what we also bring to the table when we're looking at these opportunities. We have this expansive global network of partners and portfolio companies. And what we like to do is to make sure that we find the right match between the companies we're investing in and this network that we bring to the table. And this is honestly one of our main contributions, unlocking value and synergies at a global scale.
Thank you, Abdulla. I think, unfortunately, we're running out of time. So maybe the last question to our speakers on the financial implications of the ecosystem strategy. Is ecosystem development something that you think should basically just help your core businesses to see high user retention, engagement, and basically help maintain strong market positions? Or do you think there is a lot of additional value creation, given that the competition is high, the investments are high? Do you think you will actually create value from those new services? And basically, when could we start seeing returns on the current investments? That's a question to everyone. So Vyacheslav, Oliver, Anna, Dmitry, if each of you could spend 30 seconds, 1 minute.
I will be very quick. I think that, first of all, we are already seeing returns on that. And for several quarters now, we've seen from 30 to 50% of top line growth coming from areas that we call beyond connectivity areas. And this is important for us. On the other hand, it's really not possible to distinguish the real effects of ecosystem from telecom sometimes, because for example, when you add a service, your service or partner service, we have a lot of partners from Russia and from abroad. If you, I don't know, provide your customer with the premium accounts in Spotify, and it's, I don't know, free of charge for 6 months, or any other service, you see that subscribers churn from telecom is going down, and sometimes it's going down 6 times in some configurations, which means that actually your telecom business starts to grow, and you cannot attribute it only to the excellence of your telecom. It is excellent, of course, but it's also the result of this multi-product approach that we've taken a few years ago. So in these terms, I think investors should look at both sides. There would be one sign that you see each ecosystem, if it is an ecosystem, if it's expanding in services, it should have a lot of we call them lags. You can see other businesses that grow by themselves because they start bringing new customers to ecosystem. This is an important part of that. At the same time, you will see different. At first, it's going to be slow, of course, but you will see different percentages in top line growth in core businesses of successful ecosystems too. We can see that now, and you can see that MTS in the last couple of years, but especially in the last year, is going in a little bit, not like the market goes. We're going higher on telecom top line. And this is, I can tell you, this is primarily because of our ecosystem approach. I try to be quick. I know there is no time.
Okay, could I add something?
Sure.
There are the question is a little bit tricky because for sure we want to maintain our main business, and it happens because when people could find more stuff on our platform, they just stuck on it, and our main business and advertising business also grow up, but about the new value creation is, you remember my first speech that when I say that the main benefits for the business, it's lower CAC and higher LTV. But this is the core problem for the each business you want to start. There are a lot of nice ideas, but if you don't have right unit economy, you can't do it for a long time. Yeah, for example, you want to make, I don't know, a pharmacy delivery, or you want to make bike rents. If you can't find the right unit economy, you're like losing money. So the ecosystem, it's like enabler. You have, when you start new business, you have like better condition from the start. You already know that you could engage people like for much lower customer acquisition cost, and for example, and have more more LTV. So you have more opportunity to start businesses that others can't even do because they will be not profitable at all. So that's both ways. That works both ways. And in terms of returns of investments, we already have, no, for sure we won't count everything. And we already saw how, for example, loyalty program VK Combo increase retention and number of orders in Delivery Club and City Mobile. And we also, and even music, even retention in music service, it also increases. And we see a lot of effects like this on ecosystem, and we plan to provide these numbers for our investors like soon, I think.
Yeah, hi. I'll try to be super quick. Look, I rarely disagree with Anna, but I disagree now that it's a tricky question. It's actually, to me, a very straightforward question. I mean, first of all, sometimes ecosystems become these days a hype word, and let's not create or discuss ecosystems just for the sake of ecosystems. At the end of the day, this whole shall lead to either immediate financial returns for the business, or its longer term returns for the business by retaining customers better. And at the end of the day, we all provide services to our customers. If customers will like these services and these ecosystem elements add them additional value, then they will stick to your service, you will increase retention, and again will get immediate or longer term financial returns. So at the end of the day, of course, yes, they should create. Why would you need them in the first place if they would not, right?
Just very quickly, it's there's a kind of positive feedback loop that you can achieve by building an ecosystem. So the first is you're differentiated, which leads to greater engagement and sticky factor. So MAU divided by DAU, which should grow hopefully in favor of DAU, which drives virality, which drives customer acquisition. So there you have your LTV divided by CAC that Anna was talking about, which is obviously all important. And that's why you have to have an ecosystem.
Good summary, Oliver. Sadly, we're now more than out of time, even though I think we could all talk for much longer on what is really a very exciting topic. It's been super interesting. We've all learned a lot. Several of the speakers are now keen to meet offline, which is great. And we really appreciate you making the time in your schedules to join this event. This panel will be available to replay on our YouTube channel. In the meantime, thank you again to everyone for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Knowledge is information, but not all information turns into knowledge. Today, every company leaves digital footprints in hundreds of different sources. But this information by itself does not tell you who it is you're looking at and what the risks of doing business with them are. Businesses can't exist in a vacuum. They need employees, customers, partners, contractors, investors. Good counteragents help a company succeed, create products, make profit, expand business opportunities. But what about bad ones? 49% of organizations around the world say that they've been victims of fraud or economic crime. 2/3 of Russian companies say they've encountered economic crime in the past 2 years. This is significantly higher than the global average. Every year, 15% of companies simply disappear, whether on their own initiative or because they're forced to do so by tax bodies, often leaving unpaid debts. If you want to minimize your risk, you need to find and analyze every scrap of information you can, identifying, analyzing, collecting facts. Processing big data is impossible without qualified specialists, experience, time, expensive equipment, new technology, machine learning, graphs. Spark Interfax gathers information from all available sources and converts it into knowledge, allowing you to see the world of business in its entirety with all its risks and opportunities. And there's no doubt that tomorrow we'll be able to understand the world of business even better, thanks to the emerging digital economy, cutting-edge technology, and the availability of new information about the lives of companies. Knowledge decreases risks and creates trust, the foundation of any successful business.